official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
Welcome back to Coincast
Unleashed.
And we're here today again, back-to-backs.
February 9th, 2022.
And we are going to get into some interesting stuff today. We're not going to go completely in depth like the 35-minute video you saw last episode. Hopefully you got to watch that. If you didn't, make sure to go back the channel. It's the last video we put out. Get that out there. Make sure you guys are sharing that info, because that's big info. It's about the trucker convoy. It's about, the updates that they have coming up and everything. But outside of that,
and what challenges they're facing, right? Because obviously pressure is being put on from the city mayor, and I'm very sure it's coming down from the top that they want this demonstration of these protesters in Ottawa quelled. So
yeah, and the reason they're out protesting is, or peacefully assembling, whatever you want to call it, is that this vaccine is being forced upon them. There's laws, there's mandates coming into place that don't necessarily make sense. Nobody has a choice in this necessarily, and that's kind of what their argument is why can't we choose what we do with it? We don't. Now, a lot of them don't want it, right? But there were even some truckers that came out and said, I have the vaccine, but what's the reasoning for making me forced to get it versus giving me that option, right? So that's kind of the argument, and that's kind of what they're standing behind, and for good reason, right? We have a story from the Gateway Pundit about a 6-year-old that developed myocarditis, again, a disease that has affected, however you want to put it, many people under 18, a considerably higher number than the average, I would say, comparatively to people getting this vaccine. And you can see
what they're also seeing in VAERS, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can see it here, the headline, 6-year-old child develops myocarditis 2 days after receiving the COVID vaccine. You can see them all wired up there, getting treatment. And, a 6-year-old child from Minnesota was diagnosed with myocarditis just 2 days after receiving his COVID vaccine. Milo Edberg was born with a micropreemie baby. It's under 750 grams and has battled chronic lung disease his entire life. Carrie, his mother, was reluctant at first getting her son the vaccine, knowing that only 3 Minnesota children under the age of 10 who have died of COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. So 3 total have died from the actual disease. That's not that big of a statistic compared to how many people have developed underlying problems from said vaccine, right? So she was also convinced by the recommendation of the doctor after being told the vaccine was safe and harmless. Now her son has myocarditis and can't walk following the COVID vaccine. Here's more. You can read into this. We'll leave this down in the comments for you to read. But this is affecting everybody. Obviously we don't want it affecting the kids. That's kind of the biggest demographic. This is the future of our country, the future of our world. And there's still a lot of ifs, ands, or buts to be said about this vaccine. So again, this Freedom Convoy is combating against that. Why is there no choice? Why can't my kids play sports? Why do I need this to provide money for my family? Those are the big arguments. And, to go out and say that's a fringe group is a pretty insane statement to me. Well,
especially when the information is still, the accuracy of the information is not being fully released to the public either. So, we have those issues here right now where here's a prime example, a report. Yes, her doctor, said, it should be fine. Go ahead. Yeah. Right. Because they were under the perception that these vaccines were safe. But when you actually dig into it a lot further, you realize, well, wait a second, these are all experimental. The human trials are happening now. So, and it's happening on a mass scale right across the globe, which is affecting countries around the world. I mean, and individuals around the world. And that's why we're seeing such an uprising of people just saying, well, wait a second, where do our rights end and this vaccine begin and these mandates begin? And especially with, these vaccine passports that are being, now the good news is, like I say, province in Saskatchewan is rescinding that, their mandates. And some countries are doing the same thing, but there's still a lot of misinformation. So people are making decisions when they're not being fully informed, and they're supposed to be fully informed before they take the vaccine, not after the fact. So here's a prime example where a mother is, she's trying to protect her child. She's she made the decision to do so. And here's where she's actually then reported it to VAERS.
Yes.
Right. It's down here where she has reported to VAERS. Yep. She's got documentation and, video of what her son was like prior to the vaccination and where her son is now. And it's ironic that within 48 hours that, there's such a drastic change in how her son was living.
Right.
And so this is the important information that needs to get out. There's no reason to have this censored, so other parents can make more informed decisions. And maybe the decision is right now is just to hold off and understand this better. And, compared to what's happening, it's never happened in all of history when it comes to this type of stuff. Even previous vaccines that failed for whatever reason, they pulled them off when there was just a very few deaths. Like I think the last one was the swine flu, which was I think it was, don't hold me to the number, but I think it was around 12. Mm-hmm. Well, what are we over here now? So,
right. Well, and even with the pushback from parents, you're seeing these issues. You're seeing pushback from obviously the trucker convoy. That's a lot of people. It's a large group of people, but we're also seeing resistance from not necessarily within, but we're seeing it from some, officials per se, in the form of police officers, people that have some sort of influence in the sphere of, crime, combating that, prosecution, everything like that. But, we have a little clip here from, an American police officer.
Right.
He has kind of his own message for the Canadian convoy and what he thinks action should be taken by A, Canadian police officers, and B, the rest of the world, right? So we'll check that out real quick too.
Hello everyone. I hope everybody's doing fine. My shift was over tonight and on my way home. Folks, I couldn't help but think about everything that's going on in our country and in our world and up in Canada. These folks are really standing up for what they believe in, and rightfully so. But the videos and stuff I've seen today of officers taking people's fuel, taking people's gasoline, and I can't help but stop and think about this. As an officer, my career, I've heard countless times about integrity, being a person of integrity, doing the right thing even when no one is looking. Now, I don't know what Canada's constitution is. I've never really looked into it. But no matter who you are, if you're in law enforcement, regardless, any place in the world, integrity is one thing you should always take seriously. And that's doing the right thing even when no one is looking. My oath was to the Constitution of the United States. And my oath was to protect the constitutional rights and the people of the community in which I serve. At no time did I ever swear an oath to a politician. And my integrity runs deeper than their political gain. It's just my thoughts, folks. Something that was eating at me, I thought I'd share it with you. And that's just how I feel.
Yeah. So,
and it boils down to integrity. And, like this officer says, and we've got the same situation basically that's happening. It's happening around the globe, right? So this is not a Canada thing. This is not just a U.S. thing. This is a global thing. There's way more going on here that we can ever possibly imagine. But we're starting to see, like I say, integrity, especially with these officers, whether it's in the military or whether it's on with the police, the fire, our EMS, our medical practitioners, nurses, doctors, and scientists that are coming forward, and they're putting everything on the line. And that's why it's so important that we literally, as a whole, as humanity, we need to be making sure that we are in numbers here. Now I know we've got a second officer from Canada. And listen to they're two different people from two different countries, but listen to what he's saying.
Hello, my name is Nick Motichka. I'm a police officer currently with the Calgary Police Service. I've been with Calgary for just a little over 10 years, and prior to that I was with the RCMP for approximately 6 years. I just wanted to read something that I wrote this evening. Today was a hard day for me. Something was taken away from me that I can never get back. Watching members of the Ottawa Police Service seize fuel from peaceful protesters took away a long-held belief that I thought to be a lasting truth. And that is that the police are here, when push really comes to shove, to protect and help people. I will never see my profession in the same light than I did before today. What I saw was the police doing politicians' dirty work, like hired goons. This goes against every reason why I chose this mostly thankless, difficult, traumatizing career with terrible hours. The reason I got into law enforcement was to help people. However naive that was, it is my honest truth. As the years wore on, I'll be the first to admit that I got jaded, but I never let anything compromise my integrity. I always applied the front page of the newspaper test, and that is, would I be okay with whatever I was about to do being on the front page of the paper, or a news story in your feed for younger viewers? Doing what was right, even when no one was looking, even if it was difficult, was always the right decision. What is happening in Ottawa, with the clear political influence on the police to physically exert political will on peaceful protesters for nothing more than possible political gain, is so very wrong on so many levels. I was just following orders is no longer an excuse. It is time to stand up and speak out by refusing to breach your fellow citizens' fundamental charter rights. You signed up to help people. Stand with your fellow Canadians and say enough is enough. There is no doubt that we are all part of history right now. I have one question for you. Which side do you want to be on?
Tell too clearly that, he wrote out his response. He clearly thought through this.
Yep.
And it was just difficult for him to kind of figure out. And it's crazy that I feel like that's something he had he said that in the moment instead of writing it out, he may have come to tears. I mean, he really was affected by this.
Yes. Yeah, he definitely put a lot of thought to it. And he's exposing himself, because I know there's 2 actually videos. He's a Calgary police officer.
Yeah.
He's going to be recognized. Obviously, anybody on the force may recognize him, obviously, that he's sharing his views, and he's sharing his views to the public. But that's what's needed. I mean, that's where leadership is.
Right.
And that's part of the reason for the oath, why, people in this profession, take that oath. And at the same time, we have to recognize what these sacrifices these individuals do, but also be willing to stand up with them, not in a violent manner, but just stand up in numbers. I mean, So, just like we've seen with that group, in Ottawa, saying, hey, we'd like to have more support come down to Ottawa, because we know the pressure is coming. That's where it can be done, peacefully, and, strength is in numbers. And it's showing up around the world. So I'm just very want to acknowledge both those officers for being willing enough to be open to the public and sharing their views. And we just need more and more of that.
Right. And I think that's a good way to close this out too. Is stand up for what you believe in. If you watch any of our videos, we do. We continue to. So we'll let you know for sure about that. But make sure you guys are getting this out there. Don't be afraid to share this with a friend. If you're really bold, you can go share it on Facebook and see if they block it from you. Anything like that. Anything helps us.
You can always go over to get her.
Out. Could always do that as well and share it there. Maybe that'll help us grab a following too. But we're trying to get more news out there for you, more informed, ideas that aren't necessarily mainstream. Not even close, really. But just stay informed. Don't believe a word we say. Just be open to listening to it.
To what we have to say. And then check the information out for yourself.
And we'll leave that down here in the comments as well, or comments. We'll leave that down here in the description as well, so you can listen to that. You can look through this article, see any of that. Go support these creators. Go support these people putting out these stories. They definitely need it. So we'll see you guys in the next episode.